So I decided to order a full, complete kit, shrimp rigger kit from, I guess this is probably like AliExpress, but I basically ordered it from eBay. This is the first time I've actually ordered the entire kit. So every other time I've always just bought the wood and then pieced out, you know, what I needed from Offshore Electrics. But the only one they had for sale at that period of time was the full kit. So I decided, let me just buy the full kit and, you know, just see the difference. I think it was like, I don't know, something like $89 or something like that, or $79. But, you know, I needed the rudder and I needed the little strut mount, this little mount piece right here. And I don't think I'm going to use the 130 cable and their weird little 1/8 shaft. I could, you know, I totally could. If for some reason I can get by with a, you know, a cable like that, I may do it. But the goal is for this unit is down here. So here are my goodies, and I'll show you. So we're going to do the same thing we did on my red shrimp rigger. We're going to do a Flycolor 120 because that seems to be like the perfect size ESC. And then we're going to run this Tenshock Evo motor. Now this Tenshock Evo motor does not exist. This is a one-off that they made for me. I sent them an email, told them I want a specific kV value. So this one here, I wonder if they even have the kV on the back. Oh wow, that is so cool of them. They even printed it on the rear of it. Check that out. I haven't even noticed that yet. 4150 kV. So most guys are running 4000 kV. I had my fastest run, I think it was 91 miles an hour. I had that on, I think it was 4200 kV is what it was. But that was on the TP motor. And currently in the shrimp rigger right now, which is the red one, that is like a 3460 kV or something like that. And then in my blue one, Project Sentry, it just didn't seem to pan out because I feel like the CG on it, the balance is just all messed up because I did intentionally slide the motor back in order to give myself more room in the front. And I think it's just too heavy in the rear, to be completely honest. So, and plus I've got a whole lot of additional hardware on the back of the unit compared to the way this shrimp rigger is. This one doesn't have nowhere near as much weight as this one. So it's just more additional weight to the rear. And yes, I know, I could sit here and mess with it and do this and do that, but I don't want to break that one. That whole setup runs so good right now. I really just want to just kind of turn that into like an oval basher. And then as time goes on, I just don't want to lose it. To me, it was like the first shrimp to hit the 90s, and I don't want to break it. I just don't. It has a lot of sentimental attachment, you know, for doing what it did. Another guy, Miguel, I think his name is, he's in Spain. He got one of these things up to 98 miles an hour, I believe. So we still have yet to get a shrimp to bust into triple digits. And I had every expectation of Project Sentry busting into the triple digit. Now, I haven't played with that boat enough because basically work, my job, my day-to-day job has gotten so busy. My father is stepping out, starting to retire, and I'm having to take his place and, you know, take over the business, the family business, so on and so forth. And I also run a rather large YouTube channel and an online business, and that eats up a lot of my time. Plus, I have family, 3 kids here, so there's just so much time. You have to really figure out, you know, dedicate your time wisely. What do you want to do, you know? And I have all these ideas and these dreams and these aspirations when it comes to RC boating and other aspects in my life. And I have to decide, what do I want to do? You know, do I want to take this weekend to sand that boat down and paint it? Or do I just want to take this weekend to pack the kids up and take them to Busch Gardens or King's Dominion? 9 times out of 10, I'm going to pack the kids up and take them to King's Dominion, or take them to the beach, or take them to the fair or the carnival or something like that. So there's only so many years that we get to do things like that. So even right now, I have to decide what I want to do. So I think tonight we're going to open this up and start the process of building the sponsons. I'm going to do it the same way that I did my first one and not worry about strength, because on Project Sentry, the blue rigger behind me, I focused so much on strength because I knew I was trying to get to 100 miles an hour. I made it way too heavy. It is 4 ounces heavier than the other rigger. Now, 4 ounces between these little boats is a lot. Like, that is a lot of weight, a lot of additional unnecessary weight. A lot of it comes inside the sponsons, where I laid carbon fiber and epoxy in the sponsons to stiffen them up. Different carbon rods, bigger motor, bigger wires. I have a metal motor mount with screws coming through the side of it, a double layer rear carbon transom. Instead of just one piece of carbon, it's double thick. And then we've got a carbon servo mount, and like I said, we've got a typical like rear strut that belongs on a 29-inch catamaran. Where this over here is a micro mount paired to the bigger strut. But and you can tell I've got a teeny tiny, like, I don't even know, 1/16 push rod, and then I've got a 2 mil push rod here. This through hole didn't turn out as well as I had hoped, but it is functional. But this essentially was a straight line rigger anyways. But we will get back to it eventually. I just wasn't completely satisfied with the build, but we will play around with it more. The reason why I'm not running it right now is because this stupid W-Fly receiver has that little 1-inch antenna. It does not do well. I just figured, you know, it didn't do well in this big rigger. It didn't do well in the boat previously I had it in. It didn't do well in this. So never going to buy those little 4-channel W-Fly receivers anymore. Just going to stick with the 9-channel and an external antenna. But, all right, enough of me talking. I know some of y'all get annoyed at my talking, but, you know, that's literally what my main channel is, just me talking all the time while I'm at work. So that's what you're going to get. If you don't like my content, click the hell off of it and don't watch me. One thing we've all dealt with these is finding a battery and fitting a battery. And the way this works is you break the exoskeleton or the inside skeleton of it out, and you glue this piece onto this piece, right? Well, I'm going to do it a little different. Since this is the inside piece and this is the outside piece, I'm going to make this the inside piece, right? And then I'm going to make a new outside piece out of this right here. And the reason for doing this, we'll just leave that there. The reason for doing this is I'm going to make this just a tick taller. Because if you were to measure this here and measure this here, this piece here is about 3/16 of an inch like higher from the bottom to the top than this is. So I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to take this piece and basically put it on the new piece of plywood over here, and I'm going to trace around it and make new outside pieces that are a little bit bigger. That way I get a little bit more height in my battery compartment, because that's what we need. We need more height right in this area here in order to fit a 2200 milliamp battery. Now, the 1800 milliamp batteries or the 3S 2200s fit really well. But if you're trying to go 80 plus, you definitely need a 4S pack. And I think the gentleman from Spain who did 98, he was running a 5S pack. So I've yet to find a 5S pack that'll fit in this boat. Now, I do think I can fit 2 3S packs in this boat and run it on 6S. I know that's nutty, but they would be 2 1800 milliamp packs stacked on top of one another, and I believe I could make them fit. but the wiring would be a nightmare, having, you know, a parallel harness and all that crap, trying to jam it all in there, and a GPS. It's just a whole lot going on. But that is the only incremental or large change that I'm going to do. I'm going to make different sides to it. I watched Cozy RC, and what he did when he manipulated his rigger, he actually took this. This is the top. So this right here is the top of the Sponsson, which is right here. He took this, and I believe on the edge, he measured 10 millimeters and cut 10 millimeters off the top and off the bottom, making his Sponssons narrower. So that's less drag down here on the water. I don't want to do that. I don't, you know, I really thought about it. I actually had this piece of wood here, and I had my straight edge and my razor blade, and I was going to do that. But I'm just gonna leave it stock, because I feel like we get a little bit better flotation out of it. Yes, it may be more drag, but I just don't think it's that much drag, honestly. I mean, you're talking about this much, like from here to the tip. That's how much of it's riding in the water. A very, 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 very small amount of it's riding in the water. I just don't see it making that big of a difference. Now, it may. It may make a big difference. You wouldn't know until you build two exact same boats and then hold them side by side and say this one's got skinnier sponsons and it's X number of mile an hour faster. We just don't know. But I am going to make new side pieces that are just a touch taller. We're probably talking 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/16 of an inch taller than whatever this is. All right, it is now the next day. Ran out of time, had to eat dinner, and it got late. But I wanted to kind of show you where I had gotten to on the Sponsons. And I had almost messed up here, because I was like, oh crap, I can't glue the back on because I gotta have bolts for my turn fin. So I went ahead and I drilled some holes, and I got my little Allen bolts in there. Let me turn some light on for you so you can see it. And I basically just kind of super glued them in. I don't think I'll have an issue. I put super glue on them and then put more on top of it, let it dry, put more on top of it, let it dry. I thought about going and getting some carbon fiber and stuff like that and redoing it, but as long as I don't like hunk down on it super duper duper hard, I don't think I'll bust it free. But once I get the carbon fiber bracket like coming off the back, there's really no need to take it off. I don't think I've ever taken off the other carbon fiber bracket. I've just taken the turn fin off of it, you know. But I'm pretty good on this Sponsson, and then I've got this one done. Not sure if this is how it's supposed to go or what, but this is just how I do it. But I will say this, doing it all with super glue rather than like, you know, epoxy, oh my God, it's so much lighter. It's so much lighter. And instead of painting the boat this time, I think I'm going to do a little decorative artwork with a blowtorch. I think I'm going to, before I ever seal it, I'm going to take my blowtorch and make some burns on this thing. I think it would look cool to kind of like char it into like some sort of shape or pattern or whatever, just to be different, you know. And I'm not sure if I'm going to do epoxy and alcohol or maybe a polyurethane or something over the wood to seal it. Not sure how I want to do this one. But all I've got to do now is pretty much glue the top on. But if you look, the outer edge sits up a little bit higher. And I know sometimes, the first one I did, I just said screw it and left it at that. It was like at a little bit of an angle. But when you do that, there's no glue support on your centerpiece, right? Because it jacks up the wood right there, so there's no support. So what I did to this one was just basically lay it flat here on the pool table holding the sandpaper, and I would sit here and basically sand it. I'm sanding this edge right here down to where it can be flush with the other two. You can kind of see in the imagery how much this side sticks up. So we're going to sand that down. That'll take a little bit of weight off, and that'll make the top piece sit flat, and then we run a bead of super glue across all three and our seam here. But enough time. All right, it's been a few hours. Got the Sponsons pretty well done. They're so much lighter weight without using regular glue. Super glue saved the day. I think this is going to be a really, really light setup. But, so the sponsons are good. All we got to do is sand those. We'll take them outside and sand them later. So if you look here, got a sheet of wood. These are the sides of the rigger. I'm going to lay it down and show you what I did. I basically traced the bottom and kept the holes. I'm trying to line this up to where I can show you. But the back of it's the same. The front of it, I went ahead and rounded the nose a little bit more. If I want to extend the nose, I can, or I can sand it blunt and keep it the same. But if I did that, I'll probably have to extend the nose out. Not really sure how I want to do that yet, but you can see the height difference. Just that small little bit. I think that's all we'll need. Hopefully that's all we'll need. But we made 2, and I'm slowly working my way with the razor blade around it, slowly cutting it out. Because I feel like I'm going to be better if I can cut the line with the razor blade rather than taking it outside and cutting it on the bandsaw. I think I'll have a straighter edge just by cutting it like that. But it'll take quite a while, and I don't want to cut all the way through on the pool table because I don't want to ruin the pool table. So I'm going to cut most of the way through, get me a nice channel to work with, and then I'll set it on the floor and cut on top of the carpet. All right, now a few more days has gone by. It's actually the morning, Sunday right now. I think I started this on Monday, so it's been a full 7 days, and this is essentially where I've gotten. But so we've got the inner skeleton glued to the plus size exterior. You can see the nose is just a little bit longer, and the height difference is of this piece right here. You can see on my finger. So I glued that on there. That way the top piece, let's just say this, the hypothetical top piece, does not glue into a track like on the bottom. So on the bottom it gets glued in the track. On the top I'm going to glue it on top of both of these. That's also going to give me a little bit more height, because if you glued it in the rib, you'd lose that little thickness, that 2-3 millimeters right there. So what we'll do is we'll probably utilize this piece and then end up grinding it out. It's just going to help keep the front form more square. And right now we're going to take the sponsons outside, and we're going to take these pieces outside. So these pieces have to get duplicated in carbon fiber. So that's the one thing that I'm going to have to use in order to use a bandsaw. I mean, you could theoretically cut out carbon fiber with like a hacksaw, but I just ain't got time for all that. So we'll cut out the servo tray, the motor mount, and the rear transom. I'm only going to do 1 layer of carbon and 1 layer of wood. Last time I made Project Sentry, I did 2 layers of carbon. I just think it was just additional unnecessary weight. One layer of carbon is fine. Now I've also got 2 mil carbon and then 3 mil. So I'm going to make the servo mount out of 2 mil, the motor mount out of 3 mil, and the rear transom out of 3 mil. Because there's no need to have this thick. It just needs to be a little bit more rigid than the wood. The wood is honestly fine to use. But I noticed that if you have to replace your servo and the holes and everything, the screws, it just kind of rips the wood out, especially if you crash and you put that stress on the servo. But all right, enough of me talking. I'm going to go outside and get this done, and I'll show you the final product. Now it's been about another hour and 15 minutes. I'll show you the sponsons. I got them looking pretty good. You see the edges. Edges are nice and clean and crisp. There's no hangover, no overlap, no nothing like that. Looks nice. Show you this one. Still got to touch it up by hand. I'll probably drop down to say 400 grit. And I may get like a flat square piece of metal and try to shape the back of this to where the water breaks off crisp. And I wanted to show you, got all my carbon fiber pieces done. So this is the transom. We'll go ahead and let's see, let's set that there like so, like so. All the holes line up perfectly. This edge and I think this side and the top were my square sides. The bottom and the left are the sides that I had to cut out. So those will be the sides that I have to clean up with a file. But if you notice the piece that I glued the piece on top to give me compensation for the additional height of this piece here. So if we take it and look, it should theoretically match, it should theoretically match the height of the boat. So we'll get to that point later. And then this is the motor mount. So instead of the oval piece here, I went ahead and just cut it out, and I also made this higher. So I have not yet test fit it. Let's see, it goes on the left side goes down. It'll be like this. That's essentially how it's gonna look. So not bad. Like, that is spectacularly perfect in my opinion, because the bottom is gonna come up to that point and it's flush with the top to be glued straight down. So that's like, I couldn't have hit it no better on doing that. So, and then we jump over here to, and see, this is thinner. I'm not really sure if you can tell on camera the thickness difference between the two. The one on the bottom is thinner. This is actually carbon fiber plate that I personally made, where most of the others are made out of 3K twill weave. This was made out of 6K twill weave. You can really tell the difference if you hold the two side by side, the difference in the pattern. And that may be traditional, it may not even be twill. No, that's twill weave. Based on the angular layout of it, I think it's twill. But yep, cool. Now we'll get to glue it together. So I went ahead and glued in the motor mount and the servo tray. And right now I've got one Sponsson rod in, I guess boom tube, and I have the bottom sitting on. It's kind of on upside down right now, but I'm using that to square it up. Let's see if I can show you inside. Yeah, there you go. But that way everything basically is square. And I'm just kind of tacking it in right now with super glue. I'm going to go back over top of it with some G-Flex epoxy on both sides of the seams of the motor mount and the servo. That should add some strength to it, but I think the Gorilla Super Glue does a really good job of holding. But once it sets up, then we'll work on gluing the bottom, doing the rest of it, and I got to glue the transom. You can see the little bit of overhang. I got to take that out and sand that down there, and just a smidge right there on the bottom in the middle. But got to square it up and true it up. But that's what I did. I went ahead and glued on the wood. It'll give me a little bit of thickness, a little bit of rigidity, and we should be good to go. Alright, it's been another couple of hours and I've been pulling parts off of different boats. What I'm going to do, I'm going to end up deleting the Heatwave recoil too. I'm going to strip a lot of parts out of that. I did my best as far as my flex cable in my old boat when I used the Pro Boat cable. Something about this style of crimp on the cable, it just really made it just perfect in my opinion. So, and I think something about this shaft may be just a smidge longer than 2 1/4 inches. So the old shrimp rigger that I have, I used the strut and flipped it around backwards like this. That's exactly what I'm going to do this time. I went ahead and pushed in a brand new bushing, and I had to take my file in there and kind of clean it up. But I'm going to leave just enough space on this side. You can see it. I'm going to slide the stuffing tube in there. That way it'll be nice and crisp and clean. It'll sit somewhere right in this area. I'll have to cut this giant thing off. And I was looking for another one of these. I know I have it in my inventory, I just don't know where it is. And I was confused at thinking maybe this was it, but I don't think this is it. I think this belongs with Fred's Genesis. And I may be wrong in that aspect too, but that's just too big. But I did have this, and this was more my speed. And then this is a one-piece micro mount, which I'm missing all my micro stuff. I cannot find my micro stuff to save my freaking life. It's not in there. That's my Dremel kit. And I know I have it around here somewhere. I saw it when I reorganized my stuff. I just can't find it. Like I literally had it not too long ago when I swapped the turn fin out on my Mini 17. But neither here nor there. But this right here will fit perfectly in that gap. Okay, here's the rear transom. We've got our through hole here. That's going to go on like so. This will go on like so. And then we've got the rudder here. We need to flip the rudder bracket around. So we need it, basically the bracket itself is going to be like this. And then the rudder will become on this side of it. So I just need to flip the rudder around. But other than that, I think we're pretty much good to go. I need to find the correct stuffing tube that will fit in here. I've got quite a few selections. I've got 2 big stuffing tubes here. I have an aluminum one, a few different sizes there. I've got some in here. I thought about rocking that aluminum one. That would save a considerable amount of weight and then not even use a Teflon liner. But I don't know. Part of me wants to use the Teflon liner. But so this right here is a stuffing tube for the 130 cable, and it has a liner in it. If you pull the liner out of this, the 150 cable actually fits perfectly in it. And then this would be the stuffing tube, I believe, for that. Let's see if this fits. Yes, it does. That fits beautifully. Perfect. So we're not going to have any issue there. And then the ski on the back of the rigger will basically block that. So it won't have any lip. And this will get support for the prop shaft and get the prop out further. And that's the idea here. On Project Sentry, I ran it the other way. I flipped it around. But on my fastest one, my 91 mile an hour rigger, the red one, that is done this way. So that's what I'm opting to do. I'm going to keep it like this, and instead of running it like so. But you can see, kind of see a little bit of a taper here. That should help the flow of water. And another thing is I tried to press the bushings out that were in here, and I could not. So what I did, I pressed them from one side all the way to the other side. So there's 2 bushings right here on the end, and then I pressed 1 bushing in right here. So I've got a little bit of a gap in between, but there are 3 bushings in here. So may have too much drag, hope not. I've been really delicate with a file and kind of smoothed it up. So it does spin on the shaft. Let me see. All right, it's going to go this way. This has got to be a terribly long video at this point. But it does spin on the shaft, like you can see. And that's not anywhere yet, so I say she'll be good. It's actually a really nice tight fit. But then you see we got the shaft coming out. So I think it's going to be perfect. I think it's going to be perfect. Alright, so I ran into my first little mistake. I forgot to reposition the holes for the rudder. I should have moved them up and over just a little, but we'll do that later on. Now, I want to just share this. I saw it online. Bending a stuffing tube, the bigger they are, the harder they get, and you kind of put your thumb and you don't want to kink it. It's so easy to kink. I took these antenna ends and I just capped the end of it. You can see a little residual sugar. I literally packed this thing full of sugar and put another cap in the end of it, and it bent so perfectly, like so uniform and perfectly. I saw it on Facebook. Somebody said pack it full of sugar or sand, and I'm gonna tell you right now, that trick works phenomenal. The easiest stuffing tube bend that I've ever done right there. No heat required. You just pack it full and just nice and easy, nice and easy, nice and easy, and you get a nice curve to it. If you're questioning, want to know, it's 120 millimeters long. I'm basically trying to duplicate the length of the one that I have over here. So I give myself just a smidge more, maybe like 3 or 4 mils extra. But yeah, worked awesome. Alright, so I figured I'd go ahead and put this in there since we're kind of halfway through. So I went ahead and put the Tenshock motor in. I don't know if you can tell, but I put one of those 4mm bearing thrust washers right there at the end of the collet. The reason for that is the back of this motor doesn't have any grub screws. So if you remember on my last one, on my TP motor, there was so much like linear thrust through the center rotor, it would push the rear end bell off. So my thought on that was, if I can prevent the thrust from pushing, then I can put that bearing there and it'll basically just push the collet into that thrust bearing. That's my thought anyways. But I went ahead and cut the shaft from the Pro Boat. I got that in there. I lined the stuffing tube all up. I put 2 little drops of super glue in there to make sure it was super precise. I measured the stuffing tube and the strut on that. It was 3.5 millimeters to the top of the stuffing tube from the bottom of the hull. So I went ahead, cut this one down and measured it exactly the same, 3.5 millimeters from the bottom of the hull to the top of the stuffing tube. So hopefully it gets me somewhat in the ballpark. But yeah, going together nicely. And then I was using this right here as a flat piece, and I got my edge right here nice and crisp. I got the bottom nice and crisp, and then this edge nice and crisp. So it should do really well. Should do really well. Let's see if we hold them side by side, if you can visually tell any difference. Let's see, can y'all tell a difference in width or height, I guess? A little bit. Let's see if we can do it like so. Yeah, a little bit. It's a little bit taller. Not bad. Check that out. They're twinsies. Twin Tenshock motors. 4150 kV versus 3540 kV. So there's a 650 kV difference between the two. But besides that, they will be pretty much identical. One thing I did do, I kind of screwed up when I drilled my hole for my servo. My drill bit went down and made contact with the brown wire. So I'm not sure if my servo's screwed or not. But I'll see if it'll work. I put a little dab of silicone on it. Hopefully it'll still make a connection, but just figured I'd put that in there. But another thing I was thinking of, if I epoxy in the stuffing tube, there's not enough to make any adjustments, right? So getting that angle and height right is really particular. So I'm thinking about filling in that entire hole there with clear silicone. That way it gives me some form of flexibility. Because what I've done on the last two is, one I used 30-minute epoxy, and then the other I used this stuff. Well, it was different. It was marine bonder. It was marine weld, but that's what I used. But I think I'm going to go ahead and just use this Lexel. And I think that should hold that in. Should seal it and make it hold. I got hiccups. And give me some sort of flexibility if it does need to be adjusted in some form or fashion. But I'm trying to be as precise as I can with this build. The only thing I messed up so far is the rudder angle. But everything else is looking pretty immaculate. Looking pretty immaculate. Alright, it's been like 7 days start to finish here. I'm going to basically just kind of finish the video here, and then I'll give you a part 2 later on, because it's just getting so long. I mean, I've got like 55 minutes of footage, and I'm going to try to edit it down into at least 30 minutes for y'all. So there's probably a few steps in throughout that I cut. But as you can see, what I did, I burnt the side of it. I took my blowtorch right here, and I just kind of scuffed the side of it. I wanted to kind of do some stripes, and that was kind of the thought process on it. I think it would look cool. I think that side actually turned out pretty dope. And then I took it to work today, and I got a coat of polyurethane on it. And I polyed the front sponsons. They look good too. Didn't burn the bottom. But this way it'll give me the ability to sand it without paint, and then I can, you know, manipulate it any way I want. So that's why I'm gonna make the, you know, finish the video up, because I gotta wait for the poly to completely cure. I mean, it's tack free right now, but the what do you want to call it? The silicone that I put in the stuffing tube is good. I've got to go ahead now and pull the motor back out of it. I wanted to make sure the complete drive line was like dead nuts on, and she is perfect right now, perfect. Yeah, so I'm gonna pull the motor out. You know, probably gonna poly the inside just as well as I can. That way it'll be completely sealed. And then I haven't decided whether I want a pointy nose cone or a round nose cone. I'm thinking of going to like a point, kind of like this is a little bit. I don't know if you can really see it, but those are a little bit more pointed. These, I just always use dowel rods. I just would take a dowel rod, cut it, and slice it right in half, and the dowel rod literally fits. But because this boat is 3/4 of an inch longer in the nose, I can't use the dowel rod. So I have to use, you know, basswood or something like that. But what I do know is, check this out. Doesn't need any fancy hatch. It can just use the regular piece. That is going to be so flippin' awesome. I'm just super excited about not needing a bubble hatch. So that'll be dope. But I still got to cook these. Not really sure. Give me some insight. I thought about taking, my daughters have got a wood burning kit. I thought about burning like Tenshock powered in this or something like that. Or do like Tenshock and then maybe like Flycolor or something like that. I don't know. But if you got any ideas, should I just do the same pattern with this, like burn it and polyurethane it, or should I go the extra mile and burn it and then wood burn Tenshock into it? Because this is going to be, you know, solely dedicated high-speed Tenshock rigger, and we'll just see what happens. But I don't know. Leave me thoughts in the comment section. I'm going to go ahead, stop now, and edit the video, get y'all something out, and just give you another sneak peek of something I got. I just picked that up not too long ago, over the weekend. Met one of my subscribers. Really neat guy. His name is Dan. Dan has a connection with SMC, and he hooked me up with a one-off 7200 mAh 3S pack. But if you look at it, look closely, it says 22 volts. It's not a 6S. That is a 3S battery. I think what he did was took a 6S 7200 and split it in half and made 2 3S packs. But he has connections with the guy at SMC, so I think that's pretty cool. So happy to make friendships like that. But that boat, I'll showcase that in a future video. Just figured I'd give you a little sneak peek of it. But excellent condition. But my my pool table is a disaster from this. An utter disaster. So I'm going to edit the video, not going to do any work tonight, and then I'm going to clean this mess up. Because, I don't know, wood boats are fun. This has literally kept me enthralled for about 7 days. I just come in here, I put on a podcast, I listen to something, I'll put on a Big B video for motivation, and I'll watch videos from Big B from like 3 years ago when he was running in some old pond that I've never seen, you know, before. Like, I guess he lived at a different house and there was a pond there. I have no idea. But it is pretty cool, you know. Hopefully some of y'all do that with my video. Hopefully you do with this video. But it's going to be really long, so don't beat me up too bad in the comments. But if you have any insight, let me know in the comment section. We'll see y'all later. Peace.